Greetings. This is John Joseph Xavier Shion coming at you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And today we're going to talk about what will no doubt be a controversial topic, and that is my thoughts on the reasons for the appeal that Rush Limbaugh had and his connection to his audience. And just to show you that I'm fully aware of this topic, you may disagree, you may choose to make me into the villain. And I'm wearing my Tom Brady jersey t-shirt, just to show you that I don't care. Now, Rush Limbaugh is an interesting individual in that you see lots of people who have strong opinions about him, all sorts of stuff posted about him, particularly with his recent passing. And the vast majority of these people haven't regularly listened to his program or ever heard anything he said other than quotes taken out of context. It's important to note that he did a show for over 30 years, 5 days a week, 3 hours a day. It's a lot of shows. If he was just saying angry and hateful things the whole time, he'd have no audience. That would have no appeal. Now, am I here to justify or defend everything he said? Not at all. He was perfectly happy to play the villain, and he's also, he realized that would get attention, and he would exaggerate for effect. And he also has in his history said some things that are distasteful. One of the things that I've seen going on around social media after his passing was talking about how he read names of gay people who died of HIV on the air. Now that is reprehensible. Make no mistake, I do not defend that. But that quote lacks some context that I think is really important. He did this for a couple weeks in 1989, and then he quit doing it. When he quit doing it, he said the reason he quit was because it was, quote, very insensitive to people who were dying, unquote. And he also said, quote, most regretful things I've ever done, unquote. When he quit doing it, he made a sizable donation to a pediatric AIDS charity as well. And I think it's important when we look at someone who's been in the public eye so much to put everything in context. Now, as I said, he was happy to not do that. He didn't believe in apologizing to people who weren't going to accept his apology anyway. Now, you may say, John, that's all well and good. What is his appeal, though? Well, it actually doesn't have that much to do with politics. And you didn't have to agree with him or not. One of the things that he did, and the world was very different when he started doing this. The idea of someone, just one person, no guest, talking about their opinions for 3 hours on a show, unheard of. So that really was changing. I wouldn't be making a YouTube video if he hadn't paved the way. Whether you know it or not, if you're making videos like I am where you talk to the camera, he did help pave the way for that sort of thing. It didn't exist before him. And he's been quoted many times as saying entertainment was at the core of what he did. Now, you didn't have to agree with him. You could disagree, but as long as you were entertained, you could tune in, and he realized that people would disagree with him strongly and tune in to disagree with him because they were mad at him. But they kept tuning in because they loved to hate him. He's okay with that. And the other thing that he did that surpasses any political content he had, and I think really is at the core, because there's all sorts of political pundits out there, and frankly, most of them bore me to tears. He maintained a personal connection with his audience, and he did that by talking about his life. With the 3 hours a day, 5 days a week format, it would have gotten very dry if all he did was speak about politics. He spoke about TV shows he liked. He was a big football fan, so he talked about sports. I know I personally was disappointed that he never came back to a show after the Super Bowl this year, because I was really interested in his take on the Super Bowl. And he had a brilliant mind, and reducing him to a political screaming guy, people who know people who followed him know that he wasn't that. And I do think he was content to not try to speak to the people who were trying to condemn him. But he talked about football, he talked about TV shows he liked, he was big into tech, so he talked about Apple products. And in the last year, one of the most personal things, and the thing that I think really, really enhanced the connection he had already developed with his audience, was he talked about his battle with cancer. I personally found a lot to admire in that, and it was during his last year that I really became an avid listener. I listened on and off before, but not to the extent that I did in the last year. And his political views, I agreed with some of them, I disagreed with some. It didn't matter, because he brought me into his world, and he opened up about his journey with cancer and his battle. I was astounded that every time he would come on, he would talk about how grateful he was to be there and how he was doing what he wanted to do. He was never bitter, and it was very inspiring. And when you talk about the personal connection, think about someone you know in your life, a relative, close friend. You can disagree with them about politics, but if you really have a bond, a political disagreement will not disturb that bond. And if you're a mature adult, you'll be able to say, well, they can have their opinion. It doesn't change my opinion of them and their worth as a person. And to think that it's about politics, I think really diminishes the way he did connect with his audience. First as an entertainer, but then entertaining them until they stuck around and had a deeper personal connection. And I think that's the root of his appeal. I think that anyone in any form of media would do well to take note of that connection. And even if you're doing something completely different, you can still pattern what you do after that. And I think you can find a lot of worth in how he reached out and connected to an audience. So that's my thoughts for today. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.